I read the message 3 times because the wording felt unreal in that very specific way cruelty sometimes does. Not loud, not impulsive, but deliberate. All my children brought this family respect except Erica. Respect. Like it was a currency I had failed to earn. She chose to be a lowly single mom. I no longer see her as my daughter. I waited for the familiar reaction, the tight throat, the shaking hands, the tears that come more from exhaustion than sadness. But nothing happened. I just sat there at the kitchen table, while my daughter colored beside me, her crayons scattered like tiny ordinary chaos. I didn't cry, not because it didn't hurt. It did. It hurt in that dull, spreading way that feels less like a wound and more like confirmation. Of course. Of course this is how she framed my life. For years, my choices had been presented as deviations. My marriage ending, my decision to move closer to work, my refusal to lean financially on family members who treated help like leverage. Each step translated into disappointment, then embarrassment, then something sharper. Respect had always been conditional. Life, meanwhile, remained stubbornly practical. Lunchboxes, homework battles, deadlines, grocery lists, the rhythm of responsibility that leaves very little room for emotional theatrics. Still, the message settled into me like sediment, not dramatic, just heavy. I found myself replaying old conversations, old glances at family gatherings, the subtle comparisons, the way my siblings' milestones were celebrated while my stability was treated like survival. Which, apparently, ranked lower. The birthday came and went without my presence. I imagined the photos' coordinated smiles, raised glasses, the performance of unity. It bothered me less than I expected. Or maybe I was just tired of being surprised by things that followed a pattern. 2 weeks later, worlds overlapped. My daughter's school hosted a community appreciation event. Nothing glamorous, folding chairs, nervous speeches, parents fanning themselves with printed programs. I almost skipped it. Work had been relentless, and evenings were usually reserved for recovery, but my daughter insisted. "You have to come, Mom," Mrs. Henson said. Mrs. Henson rarely said things lightly. The gym buzzed with low conversation when we arrived. Teachers lined one side, parents clustered in uneven groups. I was halfway through mentally calculating the remaining emails I'd have to answer later when I noticed her. My mother. Standing near the refreshment table with my sister. For a moment, my body reacted before my mind did, that instinctive tightening, the subtle preparation for impact. She hadn't seen me yet. I considered turning around. Leaving quietly would have been easy. Then my daughter tugged my hand. "Mom, they're starting." So we sat. Names were called. Volunteers thanked. Students applauded for things that would one day feel small but currently defined entire universes. I listened politely, detached in that gentle way adults learn. Then the principal stepped forward again. "And finally," he said, adjusting his glasses, "we'd like to recognize someone whose contribution has extended far beyond what we typically see from a parent." I barely paid attention until I heard my name. The sound landed strangely, like hearing a familiar word in the wrong language. "There are parents who help," he continued, "and then there are parents who build systems." A few heads turned. My daughter straightened beside me, suddenly vibrating with excitement. This year's literacy initiative, tutoring structure, and community reading program were all developed through the dedication of Erica. The gym blurred slightly. Applause filled the space, polite at first, then warm, then unexpectedly sustained. Mrs. Henson beamed. A few teachers nodded. The principal gestured for me to come forward. My legs moved on their own. The walk to the front felt both too long and strangely quiet inside my head. The principal shook my hand. Someone passed me a small plaque. Flashbulbs flickered from phones. It was simple, professional, earned. Then I looked up and saw her. My mother's face had gone completely pale, not shocked, not emotional, disoriented, like the room had shifted without her permission. Her eyes moved between the principal, the teachers, the applauding parents. Between the authority of the setting And the version of me she had constructed, the cautionary tale, the disappointing daughter, the woman who had chosen failure. Nothing dramatic happened, no confrontation, no speech, no cinematic moment of reckoning, just a visible fracture. Afterward, people approached me, thanked me, asked questions about next year's program. My daughter clung to my side, glowing with pride so pure it almost hurt. Across the gym, my mother remained very still. We made eye contact briefly. For once, there was no criticism in her expression. Only something quieter. Something closer to uncertainty. Driving home, the plaque sat on the passenger seat, catching streetlight reflections. My daughter eventually fell asleep, her head tilted at an impossible angle. I didn't feel triumphant. Just steadier. Respect, I realized, had never actually been missing. It had simply been measured by the wrong audience.